Welcome to the Crimson Engine. My name is 𝙁𝙁𝙄𝙀 and today we are talking Canon's brand new, just announced C300 Mark III. So no huge surprise what Canon's announcement was going to be this morning. It had leaked a couple of weeks ago and we slowly got more and more details, and the actual specs leaked this morning about an hour before the press conference. So it is essentially just a C500 Mark II, but with a super 35mm sensor and a whole bunch of interesting new additions that the C500 doesn't have. Now, whenever Canon releases a new camera, there's one of two reactions. One is they just screwed over all the owners because they made the other cameras obsolete. And the other one is Canon has killed this camera because they've hobbled it to protect the cameras that are already out there. I would say on this one, they went on the screwed over the people who already own the cameras, because this camera at 11,000 will do significantly more things than the C500 Mark II at 16,000 won't do. The biggest difference is that it has a new function called 𝙍𝙄𝙄𝙀, which stands for dual gain output. This mimics what the Alexa cameras have been doing for over 10 years now. What it does is every second frame it exposes at a higher true ISO. So it's not just adding gain to the image, it's actually boosting up the voltage in the sensor to get more sensitivity or less sensitivity. It's dropping the exposure so that it exposes correctly for highlights, and then it's integrating that highlight data into the places in the default exposure that are being clipped because they're too hot. So if you have a bright sunlit sky that is being clipped in your say 15 stops of the C500 Mark II, what the C300 Mark III will do is it will drop down your ISO, expose for the sky, take that data, integrate it into your whatever your exposure is, so that when you look at your footage, you're going to get those stops back. So you're going to get an extra 2 stops, plus it's going to get a much nicer roll-off into highlight. That's how the Alexa has been getting that extra stop and nicer roll-off for like the better part of a decade, and why Alexa's footage looks so good and looks so filmic. Red had a function for a long time called HDRX, where it did this, but it gave you the files. So it filled up your card twice as quickly and had a whole second version of your clip in the different ISO. I hated using it because you end up using up a bunch of extra space on your cards, and you have a whole bunch of things to do in post-production that you don't typically want to have time or money for. The difference between the HDRX on Reds and the new 𝙍𝙄𝙄𝙀 on Canon is that it happens inside the camera without you having to do anything. It just gets those stops for you, integrates them into your log footage. The reason that the C500 Mark II can't do this is because at a 6K full frame sensor, it's too high resolution. The electronics in the cameras haven't yet caught up to doing this. The reason that the ARRI Alexa LF and LF Mini can do it is they run at a higher voltage system, they have more computing power, they are $70,000 plus. If you do have a C500 Mark II and are interested in getting more out of it, I have just launched a C500 Mark II Masterclass. The link is in the description. It's a almost 3-hour course of everything that I've learned shooting with this camera and how to get the most out of this 6K full frame sensor. The other big advantage that the C300 Mark III will have is 120 frames per second slow motion at the full sensor, meaning it doesn't crop in on the sensor. The C500 Mark II can only do this at a super 16 crop, so cropping from that big down to the middle of the sensor, which makes a 50mm into the equivalent of a 120mm lens. Canon says that the C300 Mark III is aimed primarily at documentary shooters, but I can see it getting a lot of use in any time you need to shoot outside and expose for the skies, and any time that you need slow motion. It's interesting how Canon is sort of chopping up their cinema range and putting different advantages on different cameras at different price ranges, and not having something that fits everything. Another interesting point is that the C300 Mark III body is going to be identical to the C500 Mark II. So the same cages will fit, the same accessories will fit, the battery plate that Canon sells, all the things that have been made for the C500 Mark II will go on the C300 Mark III at launch. Will it lure people away from the Sony FX9, which does do super slow motion at full frame and at full sensor? Time will tell. But generally, this is lots of exciting new technology from Canon. But it's unfortunate that you now have to choose between a Super 16 16-stop sensor and a 6K full-frame 13-stop sensor. Hopefully I can get my hands on one to play with and give you guys a full review, but in the meantime, leave your questions in the comments. Let us know what you guys think this camera is going to do to the shooting world. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.